This month marks the 6th anniversary of the 2019 crisis in the repo market. At that time, a shortage of bank reserves caused the short-term funding markets to seize up, sending the overnight repo rate, normally around 2%, to spike as high as 8 to 10%. The federal funds rate also jumped above the Fed's target range. The Fed responded by injecting a large amount of additional liquidity into the funding markets, first through overnight repurchase agreements, and then by buying Treasury bills to rebuild reserve balances more permanently. In other words, by launching a fourth round of quantitative easing. From mid-September 2019 to mid-February 2020, the Fed created $413 billion, which increased the size of its total assets by 11%. The stock market responded very favorably to this. The S&P 500 moved up 13% between September 16th and February 19th, just before COVID sank the markets. Now, liquidity in the funding markets is tightening once again. This video will show why liquidity has tightened and why it's going to tighten further. It will also consider how much tighter it can become before the Fed is forced to begin injecting new liquidity into the financial markets to prevent a replay of September 2019. As you'll see, several developments are occurring that will cause investors to begin wondering with increasing frequency, how soon will the Fed launch the next round of quantitative easing? Growing concerns over tightening liquidity and growing hopes for more money printing may soon result in heightened volatility in markets. Commercial banks are required to hold bank reserves to meet regulatory requirements and to ensure they can settle payments. Since the end of June, bank reserves have fallen by nearly $350 billion. They ended last week just below $3 trillion, down from a peak of $4.3 trillion at the end of 2021. In the past, it was sufficient to monitor only bank reserves to get a good sense of the level of liquidity in the financial markets. That's no longer the case, however. Now it's also necessary to watch the size of the funds in reverse repurchase agreements, which were insignificant until relatively recently.